Tai sveiki visi, labas rytas. Džiaugiuosi galėdamas pasveikinti jūs šiame internetinėme seminare, kurio tema Practical Realization of the Passwordless World. Tai kadangi šis seminaras buvo planuojamas spalio mėnesį, o mes žinome, kad spalis yra kibernetinio saugumo mėnuo, todėl tai yra puikiai proga pratęsti gilinti žinias į kibernetinį saugumą ir lapkritį. Tai kibernetinės atakos yra reali ir nuolatinė grėsmė, o slaptažodžių ir tapatybių vagystės vis dar sudaro didžiąją dalį sėkmingų atakų. Šiandien aptarsime vieną iš būdų, kaip sumažinti šią riziką - autentifikavimo be slaptažodžių sprendimą. Seminaro metu išgirsite apie slaptažodžio valdymo iššūkius, saugumo rizikas bei naudingus sprendimus, kurie padės apsaugoti jūsų organizacijos duomenis ir sistemas. Tai unikali proga išgirsti ekspertų nuomonę ir sužinoti, kaip didelėse organizacijose įgyvendinti autentifikavimo be slaptažodžių sprendimus. Mūsų programa šiandien. Jubiko atstovė Betina papasakos apie Passwordless ateitį. Vėliau Leo iš Cisco kartu su Jubiko paaiškins, kaip praktiškai įgyvendinti slaptažodžių atsisakymo aplinką. Visi pranešimai vyks anglų kalba, todėl kviečiu pasiklausyti mūsų pranešėjų ir nepraleisti progos pasidalinti savo klausimėliais. And now, without further ado, let's move to our first speaker who will guide us in the passwordless future. So, Bettina.
Hello. Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm just gonna try to figure out how to share my slides and then we can get started. So, as I assume the introduction said, we're going to talk about the passwordless future, which is technically the passwordless present by now. My name is Bettina Val. I head up the channel at Yubico for EMEA and APJ. If you have any questions later on, feel free to email me, but we will have a Q&A session at the end as well. So when we look at phishing attacks today, through AI, attacks have been evolving. Everything is becoming more sophisticated. It's a little bit harder to spot the new attacks than it used to be when people were hacking for fun from their bedrooms. There is a big criminal organization behind the phishing attacks, and that has led to an increase in breaches. Because of this, now we're facing a lot of new laws and regulations. A lot of them are being driven by the EU. So that is a big factor why people are looking at cybersecurity. Of course, this has driven up the cost because there is so many different things that organizations have to think about. So when you look at the news, healthcare seems to be a really big target for cyber criminals because there is a lot of sensitive information that can be stolen, and there tends to be a lot of turnarounds, and it's a high pressure environment. So people who work in healthcare, it's difficult for them to be 100% on top of how they manage their accounts. So I just put up a few examples just to give an idea that these attacks are really happening everywhere, from the Middle East to Europe to the US, and it's really been a huge issue across the globe. So if we look at what actually happens when it comes to a healthcare scenario, there tend to be a lot of different employees and people don't know each other. So if a hacker manages to steal some fairly basic information from a user through social engineering, they can call up the IT help desk and ask for a password reset for that user. Then they enroll a new device to receive the MFA codes, and they can log into the employee's account and through that access all sorts of different types of information. So this can defeat legacy multi-factor authentication, things like text messages or codes sent through email or phone call. So this highlights the fact that there are a few different times in the user's life cycle where they fall out of phishing resistance. So when you onboard them, when they register a device, and when they have to recover an account because they might have lost their device or they got locked out of their account, these are critical times when the user needs to be phishing resistant. And this is where the gaps tend to be, where the hackers can get in. So what we talk about at Yubico is how to go from phishing resistant authentication, because there is a lot of great technology out there, to phishing resistant users. How do you make sure that no matter what situation the user is in, they stay phishing resistant? So here is our friend Bob, who is going to be our example to see what he gets up to. So Bob doesn't have to be an expert on cybersecurity. He shouldn't have to be an expert, and it shouldn't be his responsibility to stay phishing resistant. The systems have to be set up so that there is no ability for Bob to accidentally fail or do something that will compromise his account. So he needs to be able to move from across different platforms, across different devices and different scenarios. So what if he is in a mobile restricted area, or what if he doesn't have any signal, or he needs to log in through different devices, have shared devices. So the authentication needs to move with the user, and it can't restrict the user. So we need to have account registration that is phishing resistant, authentication that is phishing resistant, and account recovery that is also phishing resistant. If we leave a gap, that's where the hackers are going to get in. So as I'm sure you've all seen the different types of authentication methods, historically we started with passwords, and these started in the 1960s, when of course technology looked very differently to what it looks like today. So at the time, perhaps passwords were good enough, but today we know that passwords are very much phishable. When you look at multi-factor authentication, you have different types of authentication methods like text messages, mobile applications, and these are of course better than passwords, but it's very important to understand how the user utilizes these authentication methods. And if you look at FIDO2 and passkeys and smart cards, those are the strongest levels of phishing resistant authentication. So we've been hearing a lot about passkeys, and let's just see what a passkey actually is. Well, a passkey is a FIDO credential. So FIDO is a security standard which is backed by the FIDO Alliance, and Yubico is a founding member of this alliance. So that is the organization that is pushing strong authentication. And credentials are the unique ID that a user has to get into their accounts. So passkeys, as fancy they sound, they are actually just FIDO credentials, and they need to be treated as that. What is important to understand is that there are different types of passkeys. So you have the synced passkeys, which means that they can be transferred from device to device, and you have device-bound passkeys, which are created and stay on the same device. So here we can see how passkeys fit into the passwordless and passkey security spectrum. So like we've seen before, we have the passwords, we have the one-time passcodes, then we have the multi-device passkeys, which are the syncable passkeys that can move across different devices. We have the app managed passkeys, and we have the single device passkeys, which are the highest level of security because the passkey can't leave your device. So you always know where your passkey is. When you look at security keys, they are device bound and the credentials stay on the security key. Platform authenticators are authenticators that are built into your device. This could be an authenticator app, for example. And you have the third-party authenticator apps as well, which can provide passkey solutions as well. So here's an overview of which passkey solutions fit where? So like we've seen, we have the synced passkeys, which are good for usability. Users can access their passkeys from different devices. And we have the device or hardware bound passkeys where the passkey stays on the same device. So there are the platform authenticators. If you look at something like Windows Hello, that is a device bound passkey. You can't move that from a specific laptop. If your face is stored on a specific laptop, you would have to set that up on a new device. You can't just transfer it. When you look at the third-party applications, you have password managers, which provides synced passkeys, and then you have something like the Microsoft Authenticator, which provides app-bound passkeys, which means you can't move your passkeys out of that specific authenticator app. And then, of course, you have the YubiKeys, where the passkey stays on your device, but your device can move from device to device to device, as in you could log in with the same YubiKey on your phone, on your laptop, on any other device that you might be using. So if you look at why this is important, let's have a look at this example of Bob, who sets up his corporate passkey on his mobile phone, which is connected to his iCloud. Now he gets a phishing email on his personal laptop, which is also linked to the same iCloud. Bob is phished, and the attacker manages to register his own device. So that means the attacker now has access to Bob's iCloud, which has not only his personal passkey, but also his corporate passkey. So this means the attacker is now logging in with Bob's corporate passkey. And from the organization's perspective, it just looks like it's Bob. There is no way to see that this is someone else. It just shows that Bob's passkey is being used to log in, so it must be Bob. There are no attestation details. I wanted to show you this other example. Let's see if it works. Yes, so you can also airdrop syncable passkeys. So Bob has been asked by his friend Dodgy to airdrop him his Okta passkey, and Bob doesn't think much of it, so he says, sure. So this was a little bit quick. I hope you could see it, but it's a very easy process. You can airdrop the passkey to anyone you like, and that person now has your passkey. Of course, they can promise you to delete it, but there is absolutely no guarantee that that's going to happen. So now that passkey can be used to log in to accounts without anyone knowing that it's not the actual user who is doing that. So this is why it's so important to lock down authentication flows as an administrator, to make sure that you know exactly what your users are doing. So just to recap this, if you look at synced passkeys, you don't know the source. That is the important thing to remember. The passkey itself is secure, but if you don't know where that passkey is, then you have no assurance. It could have been copied or sent somewhere else. If you look at hardware-bound passkeys, you can use it to protect third-party synced options like the password managers, to have that root of trust where you know that as long as that passkey is device bound, you always know where it is, so you can secure applications that will allow synced passkeys. And to maintain assurance levels is vital because of compliance for a lot of organizations. So this is just to give you an idea of what the YubiKey does. You can stop account takeovers and protect your user credential lifecycle. And what is important to achieve is to minimize that user decision making. You don't want people like Bob to have to make critical decisions around who to give their passkey to, who to airdrop their passkey to, who to give access to their devices to. There should be no decision making required from the user, because that's how you know that they're not going to do anything that might compromise the organization. And you also want to reduce help desk calls. You want your organization to run efficiently. Meanwhile, your employees have to be able to do their job and get safe access no matter where they are or what device they're using. So if we look at compliance, there are lots of different guidelines and laws now to try to protect data. And of course, that is the number one priority for any sort of organization. No one wants to lose data. But of course, there are also a lot of reasons why organizations can't get out of this. That could be fines or reputation damage if you don't comply with these guidelines. So if you look at hardware authenticators, they offer the highest level of attestation, which is required by some of these laws and regulations. So if you need assurance level 3, only hardware-bound passkeys can meet that. So here is a snapshot of some of the legislation that we have seen recently. I'm sure most people will be familiar with a lot of these, like PSD2 and DORA, NIS2. They're everywhere right now because there's no way of getting out of having to comply with these. There's also the European Digital Identity, EIDAS, which is in some countries more further down the line than in others, but it is coming everywhere, which is also huge amounts of sensitive data. And that is why the legislation dictates that strong MFA must be used by organizations. So why is this such a big deal? Well, if you look at Bob or anyone else, most people will allow others in their family or their friends to use their devices. Then you lose control instantly as an organization if you don't know whether it's your employee using that device, or maybe it's their kids or their friends or their family members. The other very common thing to do is to use personal devices for work and work devices for personal use, when again, control is lost. So what we come back to here is that it shouldn't be up to the user to have to make clever decisions. The technology needs to be clever, and also the way it's set up has to be in a way that the user doesn't have a choice but to remain phishing resistant. So if you look at what this looks like on the back end, so if you have a hardware-bound passkey, then you see exactly where this login happened or how the passkey was used. So here you can see Bob logging in to Okta with a YubiKey. So you know that the passkey is on that YubiKey, and the YubiKey is with the user, and he couldn't have accidentally transferred his passkey or on purpose airdropped it to someone. Whereas if you look at a syncable passkey, all you see is that someone logged in, but you don't know where the passkey was found. So if you look at enterprise needs, phishing resistant users are key. Protecting credentials is key. And to be able to show that you are in fact 100% sure what your users are doing, and that it is your users that are logging in, and you know exactly where those passkeys are stored, that is also important. It's not good enough to just guess, because you won't pass the compliance and the regulations that are being dictated. The YubiKey is the authenticator method that will give users that smooth login experience. You don't want to slow down your users and they need to stay productive. They shouldn't have to call the help desk all the time to get passwords reset or to help them figure out how to log into their account. And you should be able to know exactly what they're doing and give them an easy way to recover their accounts if anything goes wrong, and do it safely. So we have a couple of ebooks if anyone wants to read up on this about passkeys, device-bound passkeys and sync passkeys. So have a look at them on the Yubico website. And if you have any questions, let us know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bettina, for such interesting presentation. So now I would like to present the second person who will present us. So Leo, feel free to present. And also, colleagues, if you will have any questions, feel free and ask in the Q&A section.
Okay, I hope you can hear me fine and also see my slides. So I'm Leo, systems engineer from Cisco, based in Espoo, Finland. And today I'm going to talk about YubiKey and Cisco Duo. So because you are in this webinar, I hope you all agree with me that protecting identities is really important, especially with modern IT architectures where everything is in the cloud. So identity is the new perimeter, but the good news is that protecting identities is nowadays not that difficult. And in fact, in my opinion, if you protect your identities, you probably get the best results for your effort. So what is Duo? Duo is very well known for having strong authentication solutions that integrate to all different kinds of applications. So we verify users, and today we will talk about that. But verifying users is not enough. We also want to verify that you can only access your important and confidential data from trusted devices. Even if we verify that Leo is accessing, for example, customer information, that's not enough. We want to make sure that Leo is not using his kids' gaming workstation, which has a nice monitor, but unfortunately has been compromised already. So we want to have a policy where confidential information can only be accessed using a company-managed secure endpoint.
Sorry to interrupt. I think we're missing your slides.
Boy. Well, thank you. Thank you for interrupting. Now you can hopefully see the slide.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, share. Okay, like this. Now it's.
Yes.
So, yeah. Thank you for that interruption. My personal record is 34 minutes of talking before a customer told me that, Leo, are you sharing anything? But now I think I only made 4 minutes, right? Okay. So we covered the verified users, trusted devices, but we also collect lots of context about identities. For example, is there impossible travel? Are our users traveling from Lithuania to Beijing in only 30 minutes? We want to collect information from systems if there are unsecure accounts, maybe accounts that are not present in our HR system, but are present in other systems. Maybe we want to collect accounts which don't have multi-factor authentication enabled. So all this kind of context provides you lots of visibility and ability to detect threats around identities. And when we assess risk of identities, we can provide a risk score and then make the authentication more secure if we think that this particular authentication is more risky. All right, let's talk about YubiKey and Duo. So we have been working with YubiKey for a long time because YubiKey is great technology for authentication. And today we will mostly talk about passkeys, which Bettina covered already well in her presentation. So the number one question I get when I talk about using YubiKeys for providing secure authentications is that, does this increase the workload of the IT organization? So, IT organization has to manage laptops, maybe they need to manage mobile phones. So does YubiKey provide, does it bring me more job and more cost of management? Now, the good news is that nope, because we can do YubiKey deployment as a self-service. So here we have a screenshot from the Duo portal, and you will have a demo on this later. So you just tick mark that, let users add, remove new devices, and YubiKey is such a device. So this way you can move the whole workload to end users to be done as a self-service. I took a screenshot from our Cisco's internal website. So if I would like to increase my security and get the YubiKey, there are 3 steps. First, I need to find out that which YubiKey I want to buy. Okay, this is probably the recommended one, the Nano, because I have a USB-C connector in my laptop. Then I need to talk with my manager, and then I need to order the YubiKey from somewhere. Cisco doesn't care where you buy it. And after that, it's all self-service. So the bottom line, it's very easy for the IT organization. So let's look what this looks like in practice. So I have recorded a little demo. So let's see how this looks like in the end user, from the end user point of view. So end user is going to an application. He's logging in. Currently, he does not have a YubiKey, so he uses his mobile phone and push message to log in to this application. First, there is a password, and then he gets a push message. But now he won't log in. Instead, clicks the other options, and here we have the manage devices option. So I can go in there. Of course, we need to authenticate the user because we wouldn't let unauthenticated user to manage the devices that he uses for authentication. But here it's done using the push message because that's the only thing we have. Now we add a device and we want to use security key, and then a couple of we put the security key into the USB port and do a couple of clicks and touch the key with the etc. So and of course there is a pin because we want to be secure. And here we are. Passkey is saved into the YubiKey, and off we go. So you can see that the security key is now one of my authentication methods. And now I can use the security key to log into the application, and here we go. Yep, this is my device, and all right, in we go. And we are in the application. So that was all done without any help from the IT organization. Obviously, there needs to be a policy which allows users to do this self-service. And we get a log message. Here was the user was using a self-service portal. He was using a trusted endpoint. So we can have a policy that you can do this only on a company managed trusted endpoint. And this is a key capability, and then we use the push to authenticate the user. Okay, I hope you agree with me that this was pretty convenient and didn't cause additional load for the IT organization. But what about security? I think Bettina covered this already well, but let me focus on in one particular threat that you are able to counter with passkeys. And this is something called AITM. This is a link from the Cisco Cyber Center. The government is saying that this AITM is a big problem. They talk about M365, but this is a big problem for any web-based application, be it ServiceNow, be it Salesforce.com, be it whatever. I showed this slide a few weeks ago in a customer event, and then after the event, I got some feedback from the audience, and there were some SOC analysts in the audience, security operations center analysts who work with threats 8 hours a day, and they said that great, but you should have talked more about this, because we see this every single day. This is not some academic threat. This is something that happens all the time, and it's actively used to attack organizations. So that's why I go a little bit deeper here. So how does this happen? First of all, the user here on the left-hand side will get a phishing email which says that now you need to log into your M365, maybe your disk space, you are running out of disk space, or whatever. There is some reason to get there. Okay, he or she clicks the link and goes to that service, but there is something in the middle. The adversary in the middle, the AITM, is here in the middle, so that link directs that connection to the bad guy's server, which will then forward that connection to the legitimate service. Now, the bad guy is running software in his server where he can eavesdrop the traffic between the victim and the legitimate service. Okay, now victim of course does not know this. He or she just sees the normal login page of the application. Then there is multi-factor authentication, which is a legacy push method or text message or something of that sort, the push message comes normally to the user, and then he or she can authenticate. But the bad news is that now when the victim connects to the service, the bad guy has the cookies. Now, what are the cookies? Cookies are things stored in the user browser that authenticate that browser with that application. And it's essentially a shared secret between the user browser and the application. And now the bad guy has that shared secret. He can take the cookies, install them in his own browser, and now he can log in to the application as the victim. So this is obviously really bad. How can we protect ourselves from this threat? Well, one way to protect is certificate-based authentication. Now, many government organizations or might use certificate-based authentication. The problem is that it's quite hard to deploy. Also, not many applications support client certificate-based authentication. So if you can use that, fine, but for a big majority of customers, this is a bit too difficult. Another thing is that allow logins only from your own company devices, trusted devices, and this is why in that log message that I showed you a few minutes ago, there was this mention that this came from a trusted device. Now the bad guy does not have a trusted device, so this is a big hurdle for the bad guy to get into your applications. So having this capability to restrict access to your important data only from trusted device is a great capability and can protect you from AITM. But the third one, which is the topic of today, are the passkeys. So, for example, using YubiKey and passkey technology, that will protect you from AITM, and I have a slide next telling you why. Now, also, I mentioned that there is a lot of contextual information around the logins and identity. For example, many ID providers can provide information that cookies, the same cookie was used from different browsers. This is a very important information, and maybe you would like to have these ITDR technologies. This ITDR is another acronym invented by Gartner, but it's just all these different technologies that provide you visibility into the anomalies within identities and logins, and also provide you easy tools to remediate. So, for example, if you detect that there is an AITM attack, then you can immediately require a new authentication using a more secure method, for example, from a trusted device or using a YubiKey. Now, why is YubiKey and passkey technology secure against AITM? Well, the reason is that there is no shared secret. In fact, it's using public key cryptography. And if you want to read more about this, I have included a link to this blog post where they go into details of how this works technically. All right. A couple of slides about Duo. So one thing customers love about Duo is that it's easy to deploy and also very simple to purchase. So it's priced per user per month price. You can see it here. Even the basic license, it has the capabilities for doing passwordless, so it supports YubiKey technology, and it also supports the trusted endpoints capability. So a very good set of functionality even in the Essentials license. Now, if you want to have more advanced functionality, for example, this identity threats detection and mitigation, this ability to create to find threats from your identity data, and having policies on whether your devices should have a firewall on and disk encryption, etc. Then this is the Advantage license provides you that. And there is the third license. The main feature there is so-called VPN-less access to your internal resources. So you can, for example, publish some remote desktops or web apps or SSH terminal connections from your internal network to the internet, and obviously before users or partners can access those, you need to have a strong authentication in the form of YubiKey or something else. And of course, Duo being an easy cloud-based technology, it's also very easy to trial. Just go to signup.duo.com and you get the 30-day free trial, so you can see how this works for you. And that's all I have. You will get the slides later, and there are some links to more information if you want to read on these topics.
Okay, thank you, Leo. So, as we mentioned before, and I will remind it right now, ask the questions in Q&A section. We're waiting for them, so I don't see any questions right now. So I have some questions from myself. So Bettina, what are the main technical challenges organizations face when they're transitioning to a passwordless authentication model?
Depends on their infrastructure. I would say if it's a large organization, what we see is that they typically have tons of different applications and services that they use, and not all of those applications will support passwordless authentication. So right now, it's not that common that an organization can go fully passwordless straight away. But the beauty of the YubiKey is that it will support those legacy systems as well. So you can start using a YubiKey with your legacy systems as well as your more modern cloud-based systems, and use passwordless for the cloud-based applications, and perhaps use like the certificates, like Leo mentioned, or a different authentication method for your legacy technologies.
Okay, thank you for the answer. So also I have one question for you, Bettina. What feedback has Yubico received from users who have adopted passwordless systems, and how has this influenced product design? Does there any feedback that influenced product at all?
For the users, the simpler the login process is, the better. So having no password obviously makes things easier. From an administrator perspective or the organization's perspective, it's even more important, because if there's no passwords, then there are no lost passwords, there are no forgotten passwords, and that has a huge impact on help desk costs. So that's something that organizations see a lot, that their costs are going down because people don't have to phone up the help desk to get passwords reset. So in terms of product development, Yubico is always striving to keep at the highest level of security. That's always the number one, and at the same time have the best user experience. So you shouldn't have to be a cybersecurity expert to be able to use a secure technology.
Thank you. Also, one question for Leo. How long does it typically take to fully implement a passwordless environment?
Now, I think the key word in your question is fully. so usually, as Bettina said, you go about deployment one application at a time. Okay, so and that's how it works with Duo. So very often customers start with their main pain points. Okay, some customers have their main pain point as with administrators. So as you know, the ransomware gangs, they are a major threat nowadays, and they attack administrators. The administrators are especially backup administrator. He's the most important guy in the company, and maybe customers want to start there, and that's their main vulnerability, their main pain point, and they do that. Okay, then they form a roadmap and go to other things. But I think the important thing is that you grab the apples that are low-hanging fruit, but which give you most bang of the buck. For other customers, it could be the partners. So I just talked with one unnamed customer, and they are an industrial customer, and they have very critical processes in their factories. Those processes are all managed through remote desktops. But partners are going into these remote desktops, and they don't have much control on how are those partners managing the passwords. Maybe that password has been in a post-it sticker, in the wall of the partner for the last 3 years, and everybody and their dog knows it. Yeah, maybe that's a big pain point, and then they want to take care of that, and then make a roadmap to go into other places. But yeah, to do full deployment, I can tell from Cisco. So we have something like 120,000 laptops, and we have I think it's a pretty full deployment, and it has taken months, but it hasn't taken years. But I don't think we are yet, full. But I think the most important applications that our users use, they are passwordless.
Thank you. Also, there's one question from Q&A section. So, does Yubico has any special price list for universities?
It's not a special price list per se, but yes, we can offer education-related discounts. So speak to Bluebridge and they can help you with that. I also just wanted to comment on this message from Gidrius. I wanted to say I agree it shouldn't be available for users to use dodgy networks at McDonald's or a hotel, but unfortunately what people should do and what they actually do are two different things. So I think it's quite common that people will log into those networks. If you go to a conference, people will use those boxes where you can charge your phone, and they just lock their phone, they plug it into a cable, they don't know where that cable is going, and just because it says free charging and you might be at a cybersecurity conference, people will do that. So being able to trust the identity and the authentication is vital, because you can't control your users, and maybe some users are more savvy than others, but a lot of them will be happy to hand over their phone to a friend, or if someone says at a restaurant, sorry, my phone has run out of battery, I need to make a call quickly, I need to check something, a lot of people will say yes in those scenarios.
Let me have here a short plug for Duo, because Duo does have an educational pricing, and in fact, for example, our biggest reference in Finland is the University of Lappeenranta, and why I mention this is that for many IT organizations it's a big hassle to write end user documentation, end user instructions. But I can tell you that universities are best at that, because every September thousands of new end users come to the university campus, and they need to have a really good end user documentation so that these end users won't open cases with the IT, because then it would be a complete disaster. So if you want to see, good examples of end user documentation, just Google Duo security and universities, and then you will find that. And also you might, if you talk with your university colleagues, you might also find good examples of integrations because they want to make the whole process of onboarding users as smooth as possible.
So thank you for your answers. Also, thank you for presentations. It was a pleasure to listen. So I hope we will do some webinars more together. So I think we can end the webinar right now because I don't see any questions. And thank you. Wait a bit. I see the hands. So I think maybe someone wants to ask more. So wait a minute. Or just hand raised. Pretty sure. Yeah, I see the questions. So yeah, recording will be available. We will send it, and also we will send the presentations as well. So thank you one more time, Bettina, Leo. It was a pleasure. Hope to see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.